Hi, this is a video to help you with step 9 of the focusing activity, where you are reflecting upon your lesson. To reflect upon your lesson, within about a week of completion of your lesson, answer these 5 questions that are found in the backward design template. I'm going to go ahead and review some of these answers to our example so that you get a better feel for how to go about answering these questions. So let's wait till that pops up. There we go. And we'll scroll down to the bottom. And this is going to represent the entire plan that you will upload to Lalima Assignments. So after we go to the bottom and we get to step 4, there are 5 questions, and the idea is that you want to reflect upon how do you make your how do you improve the student learning that went on during your lesson. So the first question is really easy. You're just restating the pieces of your lesson so it's very clear to you what you're looking for. Question number 2 gets a little more difficult because this is where you have to explain why you chose each of those pieces. And the whole idea here is about alignment. When you choose one thing, everything else has to align with that, and it starts with your action verbs. If you change your action verbs, everything else changes. So in this case, the action verbs were identify and evaluate. And if you recall steps 3 to 6, we talked about that we had 3 different types of behavioral tasks we could choose. And in this explanation, a writing task was chosen because it would actually give you a tangible artifact that actually lists down teacher characteristics and if they're good or not. If the students were just speaking, it would be much more difficult to have a tangible artifact, so writing aligns with identify and evaluate. And because my assessment required writing, the instructional activity gave numerous opportunities to write. 2 lists of characteristics were used and a paragraph was used for the evaluation. And this way, everything aligns with all the other pieces. Step number 3, we talked about trying to make your lesson exciting and engaging. So I asked you to incorporate some of the creed standards into your lesson. So I went through just basically some of the creed. There's also an example under, I think, step number 6 of how we went about integrating the creed, and so this is just another regurgitation of that. Number 4 is the most important. Did anybody learn? Did they reach their SLO? You actually have to provide evidence of the student work and assessment criteria. So for the first one, I was saying that for each action verb you need to show that the student learning outcome was reached. So if you have 1 SLO, you don't have to do this 1 time. If you have 2, you have to do it twice. So we have done it twice. Identify under the criteria of exceeded SLO, all the students turned in their lists and they all scored at exceeded. So that means that everyone scored at least 9 or 10 things in their lists here. And that means they exceeded the SLO, and I have evidence of that. So I give a little evidence of one particular student who wrote down the elements of what they thought was a good teacher. Then they also wrote down what they thought was the elements of themselves as a good teacher. So now I have some evidence that they actually did the first 2 parts of the rubric. So the second part of the rubric, of the SLO, is evaluate, and we need some assessment evidence to show that they met they indicated that all students met the SLO criteria level. So if we go back up to the rubric, they met here. So not everybody came up with an in-depth specific example. So that means I need to improve that somehow. And I share an example of what this would look like in the context of a good teacher. So some more evidence. I need you to also show evidence from and the more evidence you can show, the better, but from forums, gather that evidence and show it here. Then finally, what specific changes are needed to the SLO assessment, the ability to reach that SLO. Now, if you wrote a good SLO assessment and instructional activities, then you'll want to maybe change only the instructional activities because they didn't get there as well. So I came up with criteria that my rubric probably wasn't detailed enough to measure the in-depth paragraph, and maybe that's why I didn't get the type of criteria that I was looking for. And students, I also noticed that students did not have a problem creating the list, but were unsure how to start comparing themselves to good teachers. So maybe I need to work on that instructional activity a little bit. But one thing you want to do is just reflect upon different things that you might have done better and then write them down here. Okay, and then when you're completely finished, load this entire thing up to La Lima, which will be discussed in the last step, step 10.